Yeah, it was about several years after that when John came to us. Mara was still alive at the time, and he was like, I think I stabilized sulforaphane. And so we ended up, we were with another supplement company called Restore, it's now Ion. And we're like, that's great, John, but I don't have time to deal with that. But Mara actually was like, we got to get this out to people, because she knew what a game changer it could be. So she took the first steps to kind of get seed money raised, which ended up coming in after she died. But that was sort of the genesis of it. It is a game changer in people's wellness for sure.
You're listening to the Nutrition World Podcast, a show about navigating the intricacies of holistic wellness. We're a natural health food store located in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and we believe that optimal health and peak performance should be accessible to everyone.
Hello and welcome. I'm honored to be here today. I am Katie Coleman. I am the host today of the podcast. I'm co-owner of Nutrition World with my father, Ed Jones. I have my master's degree in holistic nutrition, and I've grown up in this industry and in this lifestyle. So it's a great honor when I get to speak to people that are so knowledgeable and have so many years of experience in our industry and in our natural world of medicine and natural world of remedies. And so I am actually here today with Dr. John Gildea, and I'm here with David Roberts. They are a very, very highly educated team, both graduates of the Johns Hopkins University. Dr. John Gildea has his PhD, and David Roberts, I believe you got your master's degree. And so we are so thankful for your level of education in this. And today's topic, just to go on and set that up, and then I'll let you guys have a chance to hop on in here. We are going to dive into something that may sound so simple, and it is one chemical compound that we're going to speak about, but it is found within broccoli. We're all familiar with broccoli. We eat broccoli. We know our mamas said, eat broccoli when you're growing and little. It's healthy for you. But this is bigger than just that. This is this amazing chemical that is found within broccoli that is too amazing to not speak about. And so this is about sulforaphane. And I would love us just to dive in initially and just speak about the basics of what is sulforaphane.
Yeah, Katie, well, thanks first of all for having us. It's great to be here with you and to talk about this topic. So sulforaphane, it was discovered in 1992 up at our alma mater, Johns Hopkins University. And since then, they have a whole center. It's called the Chemoprotective Institute that does a lot of the sprout growing, or at least historically has done sprout growing to provide sulforaphane for these research studies. And so there have been over about 2,000 research papers on the molecule, and really it's if you think about it, sulforaphane. It comes from broccoli, but it's not in broccoli. It actually has to be chemically made as you are chewing the broccoli. So if you have a head of broccoli, you start chewing it. There's a chemical that comes before sulforaphane called glucoraphanin, and you start chewing it. That is actually stable. It's in the head of broccoli. And then once you start chewing, you break the cell wall down, which has an enzyme called myrosinase that then converts that glucoraphanin into sulforaphane. And that's a little complicated, but it's basically the reason I'm bringing that up though is if you try to save that sulforaphane, it degrades because it's not stable. And so that's why the vast majority of supplements, I think all but two, ours and one other, out there basically have that precursor chemical called glucoraphanin in the capsule. And so sometimes, people can take that glucoraphanin and they have the right gut bacteria that actually converts it into sulforaphane. Sometimes they don't. And it's just a big kind of a roll of the dice. And so, what we want to bring to the market is an actual supplement that has a stable form of sulforaphane in the capsule. So there's no guesswork.
Gotcha.
Before we had the sulforaphane in the capsule, I grew enough broccoli sprouts for 10 families. Like we juiced it every day. It was a big operation. And at that time, I had a 1 and 3 year old. And so it's just a big commitment. And then if you have a crop that goes bad, in summertime, you get that mold and you're not able to take it. And so basically, and then if you travel, that's a whole nother thing. And so having other options outside of broccoli sprout growing, we just wanted to basically have something where it's a bit easier. It's a bit more methodical. You know what you're getting. The other issue with broccoli sprouts is, some of the seeds, Katie, actually don't have the ability to make sulforaphane. So some of the seeds, especially on Amazon, we were trying to source some organic seeds. And so we bought, this was back in 2019, we bought 7 different brands, and 6 of the 7 did not have glucoraphanin to make sulforaphane.
Oh, wow.
So, we did it again in 6 months after that, so mid 2020, and found that we did 9 brands, and 8 of the 9 did. But it's just it did have the ability to make sulforaphane through glucoraphanin. But it just shows you that there's a wide variety of seeds, different companies that source different seeds, and you just don't know. So
sure. Yeah. And when you want to get that benefit, you want to be sure that you're actually ingesting something that is going to have the precursor or the parts that are going to be beneficial to your health. So, why add the guesswork in for someone? And we do sell broccoli sprouts in our store, and I'm a big consumer of them in my salads, but that doesn't mean that I'm still not going to take a broccoli supplement like yours every day to know that I am getting a good standardized dose, so I'm not having to guess whether the sprouts gave it to me or not.
Yeah, exactly. That's good. That's what we recommend. So
yeah. So tell me what made you guys even jump into sulforaphane. I know you said at Johns Hopkins University that you were studying it, but what really was like eye-opening to you guys to begin this journey?
Yeah, I mean, John and I met the first week 10 years ago, actually, when my wife, Maura, was diagnosed with breast cancer. So, so she wanted to treat it integratively, so some traditional, some alternative care. And she didn't want to do chemotherapy. And so we were looking at different molecules which would help kill her specific type of cancer. And so we were able to grow some of her cancer cells in our lab, and John put 60 different molecules on them to see what killed her type of cancer, and sulforaphane was number 3.
Oh, wow.
So that's when I went out to buy it and noticed that the supplements out there actually have glucoraphanin in them and not sulforaphane. And so it's kind of confusing because I actually ended up buying a lot of this one form it's called sulforaphane glucosinolate, and I think I bought 100 bottles or some crazy thing because to get a cheaper amount. But sulforaphane glucosinolate actually is glucoraphanin, and it's somewhat confusing. And I think maybe sometimes the companies do that on purpose to get people to think it's sulforaphane. But the sulforaphane glucosinolate, the glucosinolate is the generic precursor name for all cruciferous vegetables, the cousin chemicals. So there are different, they're called isothiocyanates, similar to sulforaphane, but they could be in kale or they could be in radish, stuff like that. So sulforaphane is one of a family of molecules. It's the most well-known, and so that's why we don't talk about the other ones. But basically, we wanted to get that sulforaphane into Maura. And so when I found out that the sulforaphane glucosinolate was indeed not sulforaphane, we ended up shifting, like I said, and growing tons of broccoli sprouts and juicing them daily. And so that's how we got interested in that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Thank you for sharing that personal story. And yeah, I'm sure that was a big moment in your career where you thought, okay, we've got to do something with this here. We've got to start stepping into creating what the world needs in this category.
Yeah, it was about several years after that when John came to us. Mara was still alive at the time, and he was like, I think I stabilized sulforaphane. And so we ended up, we were with another supplement company called Restore. It's now Ion. We're like, that's great, John, but I don't have time to deal with that. But Mara actually was like, we got to get this out to people, because she knew that what a game changer it could be. So she took the first steps to kind of get seed money raised, which ended up coming in after she died. But
okay,
yeah, that was sort of the genesis of it. It is
wow.
a game changer in people's wellness for sure.
Wow. And so tell me what it's actually doing in the body from a, more of a chemistry standpoint. What is it doing?
You want to take that one?
Yeah. So I would say the crux of it is that you have to learn one basic transcription factor in order to understand how it works. Transcription factor is a protein that goes into the nucleus of a cell and turns on genes. So that you make these other proteins. Well, NRF2 is a really special transcription factor because it controls a number of activities in the cell that are quite famous. So one of the sets of genes that it turns on is called the antioxidant response element. So it turns on all the genes that are antioxidants. And the reason that that's important is that our understanding of antioxidants is generally, people think of it as like vitamin C. You have one free radical, you have one vitamin C molecule, and it inactivates the antioxidant. But when you turn on a gene, an enzyme that is an antioxidant enzyme, that one protein is able to process thousands upon thousands of antioxidants. And it keeps doing it over and over and over. And NRF2, this molecule, turns on a whole set of enzymes that take care of every category of antioxidant. So it's the master regulator of antioxidants. And so what sulforaphane is known to be the best inducer of NRF2. So it stabilizes that protein, and then it translocates to the nucleus, turns on all those genes. So antioxidant is the first one. The second one is phase 2 detoxification. So all the genes that are in phase 2 and phase 3 detoxification are upregulated. And so it's, again, not just, say, taking what would be a good cell-decimated chlorella or something where you can bind toxins and have them removed. This is turning on all the genes, these enzymes that do detoxification. So they can take care of many, many more toxicants. And that's actually probably its most famous activity. And because of that, it inactivates a bunch of toxins that can go on to cause cancer. So it's best known as a cancer prevention. And that's
Gotcha.
best data is in that area. And it also inhibits inflammation, inhibiting NF-kappa B. So those are the three that we generally talk about. Most of the activities that you can see in most chronic diseases have those three components to it. And sulforaphane, because it's such a good inducer of those three activities, it seems to be a really strong buttress against that move towards chronic disease. And so that's why it has such universal uses. Why, like you said, you can put into try typing into Google your favorite chronic disease and sulforaphane, and you'll see that most likely there's been a number of papers on that topic. And so that's the crux of how sulforaphane works.
Yeah, and just to clarify, and so we did, get into sulforaphane with my wife's cancer journey, but we want to be careful to not say that sulforaphane or our form of it, BrocElite, does anything with disease states, because it's just not something we can say. But there's a wide variety of research out there. Not most of it's on a lot on cells, some on animals, and and a growing amount, not a ton, on humans. And so that's just it's something to do your own research, read the stuff, read the papers yourselves, and make your own conclusions.
Sure. And how many studies would you say right now on PubMed are with sulforaphane? Do you have any idea?
I think over 2,000.
Okay,
How
that's
you
what I
do
was
the
thinking.
search, whether
Wow.
broccoli,
Okay.
sulforaphane, or
Sure.
you can expand it more. And if you do all of them, it's I've looked at one point and it's upwards of 6,000.
Oh, wow. Okay. So tell me a little bit, and the listeners, is it working in the phase 1 and phase 3 detoxification as well, or just phase 2? Because I know there's an intricate balance of what needs to occur between those phases, or you can, if you upregulate one and downregulate another, or you're not eliminating properly, that you could get some, say, side effects from detoxing, or you could back up something or feel a little bit sluggish. Is it working in all 3 phases, or is it just working in phase 2?
What's your
It's in phase 2 and phase 3.
Okay.
And one of the interesting components of it is that it actually slows down phase 1. And so the side effects most people get from detox program come from the fact that if you detox too quickly, you can get ill effects from that. There's much less with sulforaphane because you're actually slowing down the first phase, but you're stimulating 2 and 3. So you're getting rid of those toxins without them showing harm, or that's the general idea, is that
Gotcha.
you're sweeping them away at a rate in which you don't normally feel the side effects from.
Yeah. I'm sure you've heard of the detox flu, where people feel really
Oh, yeah.
and that's when phase 1 gets revved up and you can't really
Yeah.
deal with the toxins as quickly as need to be dealt with. And so that's the beauty of, we say that it works in all 3 phases, but the phase 1, it actually slows, like John said. So, which ends up, I think, working well so that you don't have that sick feeling.
Totally. Yeah, I've used your product myself, and I've also used it with clients over the years that have had a harder time detoxifying with other products. And even myself, almost anything would give me that detox flu based upon my genetic makeup and sensitivities in many areas of my life. And so when I would try to do a detoxification program, or try a system, or try, binders and all these different products, I would get that horrible Herxheimer detox flu reaction, to the point where most people are just going to quit doing the detox because no one has time to feel so awful, for so many days. But I never experienced that with your product. Honestly, from the first pill, I could even feel like a re-energizing cellular feeling of vitality that would come on, a calmness and all of that. So I could feel it within the system that it wasn't upregulating that detox flu feeling for people. So, one of the topics that I speak a lot about I have a Facebook group, Earth Conscious Mama, with a lot of followers for moms that need more holistic and natural advice. And then also, meet with people daily in our store. And one of my big topics is to talk about how much of a toxic world we live in. And that means from our water and our food and our, glyphosate sprayed on everything, wheat grown, our antibiotic usage, our, all these things that are going to disrupt our gut, but then also these toxins that are just hitting us from every single angle, from the time we get into the shower and wash our hair, to wash our face, to our toothpaste, to this and that. And I never say all of that to bring fear. I don't think we should live in fear. And I also don't think that would be healthy for our systems. But I think we also have to look at, okay, if we do live in this much of a toxic world, we're going to have to add something into our regimen then to help push toxins out. So is that somewhat of a belief system that you guys have with a daily sulforaphane supplement?
Yeah, people ask, do you have to take it all the time? And and I say, no, you don't have to take it all the time. But if you are wanting to kind of get a regular detox, our toxins, they're everywhere. Like you said, they're in the food that we eat, the air that we breathe, even the things that we touch. There's a study, it's older now, is right around the time I was leaving public health school in the mid 2000s, but it was on women's breast milk from women in France, and they had this flame retardant in breast milk, and it was like, whoa, what is that? And so it ends up that a lot of the couches or things that you would just touch through sinning, got this flame retardant going through your skin, and these women, and it ended up depositing some of it into their breast milk, and so fast forward, that flame retardant is a neurotoxin. They found out at the time. They didn't know what it did, but it's insidious, and Katie, you mentioned glyphosate, and so that's one of the things we've done some research on, and John has did two amazing studies looking at how glyphosate actually reduces NRF2 activation. So basically, it makes NRF2 being responsible for that detoxification. So basically, we call it the mother of all toxins because it makes every toxin that much more toxic because you can't get it out of your body if your NRF2 is turned off. And so what BrocElite, our form of sulforaphane in BrocElite does is it's able to reverse that glyphosate insult and get the NRF2 back to normal levels, even in the face of glyphosate. And so that's something that, again, with NRF2 being it's every cell in your body. It's not just your liver. So every cell gets to detox. And so it's an important system. It's an important thing for people to have working properly.
Wow. Wow, that's amazing. Thank you for referencing that breast milk study. There's another one that I reference often in my group from the Environmental Working Group, and they refer to, I think it's 281 contaminants found between the umbilical cord and the baby in a mother's womb, and that's before the baby's even taken their first breath out of the mama. The mom is literally just there was that concept for a long time, and maybe still with some people, that, the baby's fully protected. The baby's not receiving anything bad. It's only getting the nutrients. Well, no, there's a process of nutrients and toxin going between the mama and the baby. And so 281 for chemicals, flame retardants, environmental toxins. There was, gas byproducts, awful stuff going straight into the baby, with that baby having the blood-brain barrier is not complete. It's completely absorbing everything at that point from that mama. So, we do live in a toxic world. And I think we just have to do the best we can do. And that means setting ourselves up with the right type of nutrients that can assist our body to rid those toxins. Yeah. So there's no doubt. Yeah. So, we've skirted around and said a little bit about the company and actually but I want to say, we are speaking about BrocElite, and I would love to get into a little bit more about how you guys discovered the stability of sulforaphane and what really sets this apart from other ones on the shelf.
Yeah, so it is a trade secret, so we didn't patent it, mainly because it's really, it's pretty hard to do. And so, but that said, one of the things that we did pretty early on was look at the various cousin chemicals in the seed, in the broccoli seed. So there are around 12 pro-health cousin molecules similar to sulforaphane that are in the seed. And then we add another one that comes from watercress. It's called PEITC. And that the sulforaphane and they all kind of work in synergy. So but especially the PEITC and the sulforaphane work together so that the effect is, it's not a doubling. It's not 1 + 1 = 2. It's more like 1 + 1 = 5. And so that's the plus, is then BrocElite plus. It's the BrocElite plus the PEITC. But, there's another stabilized sulforaphane product on the market that, we do a natural extract and they do a chemical extract. With the chemical extract, they're just extracting the sulforaphane. And so So it's a little different than what we're doing in that our natural extraction gets all of the molecules, all of the cousin molecules to sulforaphane out of the seed, and so all that's in the capsule together. So it's most analogous to what a study that you would read about at Johns Hopkins, in that they grow the broccoli sprouts and then they make a broccoli sprout beverage. So that those studies have all of those molecules, not just sulforaphane, even though sulforaphane is what they talk about.
Gotcha. Okay. And so then Mara Labs is the company you guys are with, right, with BrocElite. And so how did that all kind of birth out with finding the right company to do this with and all of that?
Yeah. So, after John stabilized the molecule, found out that it was stable, like I said, Mara, my late wife, had made the move to raise seed money that came in after she passed. And then at that point, we were like, we got to just get this out to people. Because, as John likes to say, I'll quote him, the literature is crying out for a stable form of sulforaphane. So, you have all these great studies, but then you don't have a supplement. And so we ended up starting the company in December of 2017, and then rolling out the first bottle in April. And so really getting that process. But we wanted to, in Mara Labs, the name is just, of course, in memory of Mara, my late wife. So,
sure.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. I also, we had spoken before the podcast how I was going to tell us a short little personal story, but again, we can't, treat and diagnose and say that these things are going to cure different symptoms. But my oldest son, that's 3.5, in his 2-year-old age, had started experiencing a little bit more of what I would call some spectrum-like symptoms. There's no diagnosis with him, and it's not something that I'm, saying that it cured, but it definitely helped his symptoms. The symptoms that we had going on were sensory overload, social anxiety, and then just lots of meltdowns, just lots and lots of crying. I started giving him BrocElite about 8 or 9 months ago, probably. I opened the capsules and put it into all different ways. He's 3, so I've got to figure out how good ways to get that in either his food, or I'll sometimes make a little chocolate morsel and give it to him in a little treat type fashion or whatever. I've made put it in drinks, his little smoothie in the morning, whatever it may be. But I would say we saw about an 80% reduction in anxiety and in meltdowns within pretty quick amount of time, within 2 to 3 weeks. And so it's just too good for me not to share. Of course, that's coming from a personal testimonial side and not a treating and diagnosing side. But it definitely saved my little boy's mood and anxiety, and allowed for our family to have a lot more peace within the home and a lot more joy and trips and ability to go new places. Because when you do have a situation like that, you're kind of controlled by their moods and their needs, and that's fine, because as a parent, that's what you sign up for, is what's going to happen. But I definitely am thankful for BrocElite on a personal level.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. One of the papers that comes to mind, and it's a Hopkins paper that kind of touches on your experience on kids on the spectrum and looking at different scores and doing it. So basically, the paper, John, feel free to jump in, was on looked to a 12-week study of children, all ages. So they're not just young children, but even older children and even young adults, taking sulforaphane for 12 weeks, and then their scale scores improved 30% overall. And this was, all sorts of levels. And then when they came off the sulforaphane after week 12, and a number of weeks later, they reverted back to baseline. So that was a study. I don't know if you want to add anything.
Yeah, I think the component to me there is that these are older kids, and so they basically had established disease, and frankly, older autistic children have what's considered recalcitrant autism, they don't generally improve. So they're pretty stuck in wherever they land at the end of the development of the disease. And so it was very striking that virtually every person in the study showed improvement. And
Wow.
I think a lot of people's eyes were really opened to how powerful this compound is for, and how much in the autism world you are, but for sure there's a gut component to autism and a brain component to autism. And there's plenty of studies to show improvements in both of those systems. NR2 in general is the master regulator of tight junctions. So in your small and large intestines, the whole aspect of leaky gut, which is pretty universal in autism, and then the lymphadenopathy that's associated with these, the endotoxins leaving the local environment of the intestines is also a classic component of it. And I think that's why it's helping that is that it's tightening the tight junctions in the small and large intestines. It's also decreasing molecules that are associated with that. So there's less endotoxins released. It's also an anti-inflammatory, so it's decreasing that cytokine storm. And then there's a direct connection between your gut and your brain, your gut-brain axis. So it makes sense that it works in that area, but I think it still startled people that in this recalcitrant population had such strong effects.
Wow, thank you. That's amazing. So that really for me kind of summed up everything today that I was hoping to touch on with sulforaphane and BrocElite. And is there anything else that you guys wanted to chat about or have our listeners hear?
Yeah, I'd say John just touched on it some, but we've talked about the antioxidant response system. So really that's most of our testimonials come in, people notice a difference in their joint pain when they're taking. And so they're like, oh, wow. And we did an internal study looking at, because we noticed it too, pretty quickly, how quickly does it drop your inflammatory markers? And so we did a study looking at IL-6 in urine, and with one dose, so 10 milligrams, it drops IL-6 30% in 24 hours.
Wow.
So it works quickly. And then the other thing, we of course talked about detox. And then the third component we always try to touch on is brain health. And so basically sulforaphane has the ability to grow new neurons and also protect existing neurons. So and it does that through the upregulation of something called BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor. And so that's really at the heart. If you do research on that, it's at the heart of brain health. And so, people, if they are listening to this, go out and buy it. About a quarter of the people who take even one dose notice some vivid dreaming. And so that's BDNF working, at night. And so that's just the brain health component is super important.
Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah, I actually was thinking back. I think when I started it, I did have more vivid dreams than normal, and I'm not a big vivid dream person.
Yeah.
But it wasn't scary dreams. It was just very, very vivid. So I do remember that component.
Yeah.
And I know you guys sell a liquid version and a capsule version. Our store just sells a capsule version, but you do have a stabilized version in liquid that has to stay refrigerated, I believe.
Yeah, it's
okay.
So we wanted to offer that to folks who liked the liquid.
Sure.
We have it in really small capsules. Size 1 capsule is mainly because a lot of sick people have trouble swallowing capsules. So we wanted to basically get it as small as we could. But the liquid there is also available for people. Some people really like it, but it definitely tastes pretty bad. We say it tastes pungent, but
I haven't tried it.
It tastes nasty. So.
Okay.
It is less expensive per milligram.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, you can get 30. You can get 30 milligrams of sulforaphane in a tablespoon. So it's.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So one more big question here that's coming to my mind with listeners. They'll, if they're sitting at home listening to this, thinking, "Okay, sounds great. I would love to consider starting this," and then they're going to ask about dosing. So of course, starting with one pill, and I know it's dependent on what the person's issues are and what they're trying to accomplish, but have there been studies done on, dosing up to a certain level? What's your guidance, I guess, in the dosing?
Yeah, I mean, I'll answer first, and then John can dive in some of what he's seen with his studying. But we do have a 30 capsule bottle, so we recommend that as an intro bottle to kind of get one a day, and that's 5 milligrams, and then as kind of you get used to it and your body gets used to it, you can titrate up to the 60 capsule bottle and take two a day.
Okay.
Really, even at the 5 milligram per day level, it's definitely moving the needle with all these things we've talked about. And John,
okay,
you've seen that as you've looked, I believe.
Yeah, so we developed some assays, some tests, basically to show that it's activating this NRF2 pathway in vivo in people. And the interesting part about that is we're able to combine in vivo and what's called ex vivo, where you take cells outside of the body and then treat them. When you treat the cells outside of the body and titrate the amount of pure sulforaphane that you order from a chemical company, the equivalent amount that you get from 2 pills is equivalent to 5 micromole at the site. So that's quite a bit higher than what's in the literature. Most of the time, when it's measured in studies, clinical studies, it's in between 1 and 2 micromoles. So we have a functional test for our product that's closer to 5 micromole equivalents. And so even at the low dose, it's hard to make comparisons to studies because it is quite a bit more potent. And so if you see in studies, a large number of the studies have 30 milligrams as their dose for the big studies, you can easily approach that with our product, depending on how many pills you want to take. And then for physicians that want to go at it naturopaths, we also offer a professional version that's even higher. So you can really dose it appropriately. And even if you want to start lower, the children's version of it that's in the smaller pill, it doesn't have the second component for it. So if you want to ease into use, you can start with the children's version of BrocElite also.
And
okay, good to know. I didn't know that.
Yeah, about 10% of people who take sulforaphane get nauseous, and so we do recommend taking it with food. But and even then, sometimes it's so potent, the BrocElite Plus, that we do offer the children's version. Also, we have a number of adults taking the children's version because the other's too potent for them.
Wonderful. Well, I'm honored to have you guys on our show today, and just honored to speak to 2 people that know so much and have made such a revolutionary product. I'm thankful on a personal level and also on a business level that we can put it on our shelves at our store. And I think that almost wraps everything up for today. So I just want to give you my most abundant thank yous, and thank you for your time and your efforts and your education and sharing this with all of our viewers. So thank you both.
Absolutely. Thank you, Katie, for having us. It's been a wonderful conversation. So I hope it helps folks that are listening.